Welcome to the last house on the left. I'm sorry for the rough intro. I had even a rougher intro earlier, but I have my good friend Nicole Diniz in the building. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm honored to be here.
I'm sorry you weren't the first girl on.
Oh, that's okay.
How do you feel?
I'll probably cry about it on the drive home, but I'll get over it. I will.
Dude, I was almost gonna I wouldn't cry over something like having the podcast be like hard to figure out, but there's been times where I got so actually this is a good intro story. So 2 days ago, Nike's been in my room lately because like recently I've been on like a Netflix binge or whatever. I've been watching House of Cards. Have you ever heard of that?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. It's like all about
government
political
stuff.
corruption and whatnot. Like Kevin Spacey and his wife. His wife is what's her name? Her name's Robin Wright. She was the girl in The Princess Bride.
Yes.
But she looks like totally different now and whatever. But I've been binging that lately, and so when I binge Netflix, I've just been like, if Shane, if you're listening to this, buddy, I'm sorry. I've been like pounding Haagen-Dazs ice cream. I'll get the
Which flavor though? That's the most important
I'm
question.
basic, so vanilla.
That is very basic.
Once in a while.
Not even any toppings, nothing, just
M&M's too.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. So that makes it better then.
Yeah, literally like 900 calories or whatever. But so when I would finish, because I'm like lazy, I have like just the trash bin next to my bed, so like have ice cream and then I'll just like throw it out. And the last couple of days, Nike's been like raging through my
trash can
and whatever. Yeah. So the other day, I have my laptop usually like sitting next to my bed on like a dresser. And I don't know what happened, but like she must have been snooping around because I had 2 bad days where I was like I went all out and I had ice cream and
it happens. Yeah. Hey.
Yeah. So Nike's going through it or whatever. And so 2 nights ago, I come back and my laptop is upside down. Like I had like headphones in, like even nicer headphones than these that like David gave me. Sorry if you're listening, David, but because like I don't know what she did, but she like stepped on a cord or whatever. So my laptop was face down, all the cords ripped out. The headphone jack for that goes into this side of the computer was like all bent and whatever. And I was so pissed. I was like, Nike!
Did she know you were upset with her? Like, did she run into the room or did she hide?
Do you want me to be honest?
Yes.
I wanted to kick her.
Oh my gosh.
I would never kick Nike. But it was just one of those things where I'm like, if this, like, I put like so much time. Like, I have all the podcast stuff on here. And then all of my album stuff here, which is like 75% done. So I'm like, that would be like months and months of work.
That would be a disappointment for sure. So the moral of the story is don't throw your ice cream away in that trash can anymore so Nike can come and get it. I think that's the moral of the story.
Yeah. You know, it sucks. Like even still right now, I'm still like amped up that it took us this long to get everything working. So we're gonna.
It's the reality of things, you know. I'm so much more like go with the flow at this point. After having kids, it's like whatever, you know. I'm just happy to be out of the house right now.
Hey, you are the first mom that's on this.
Okay, there we go.
Know?
That's a good first. Yeah.
So we have to talk a little bit about motherhood. You know, it's funny because I only see like you like 2 or 3 times a year now. I feel
hey, you can come over I tell you that all the time.
And I live back in Merrimack now.
Come over, like I'm literally at home every day. Come over, I'll make dinner for you. Anytime you just have free time and want to hang out, you're the one with the schedule. So
yeah, that is true.
You have to tell me because my schedule's open, and you know that you're always welcome.
Yeah, that's what I tell everyone. I'm like I'm busy but like flexible. So I guess I shouldn't have just admitted that because
yeah, geez, you're pretty much saying that you don't want to come over at that point.
Yeah. Well, I wish your husband would text me more, but you know,
I wish he'd text me more too. Honestly,
is he still doing? So he's still like addicted to pickleball, right?
So actually, he hasn't played in a few weeks, which is probably the longest he's gone without playing pickleball in like 2 years. So. But yes, he is obsessed with pickleball. He wants a bag for Christmas, a pickleball bag. I got him one already, like last year, but he wants a bigger, nicer one. It's like $145.
Really?
I'm like, why would you want that?
And the bag is for just the racket and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
but he's like, I want a place for my shoes and my water bottle too. And I'm like, we have different things that we would want. I feel like just a little bag will, $25 bag will do. But whatever makes him happy, right?
I know. Look at you being a good wife.
Yeah.
It was interesting because that's why I was so surprised with some of my other friends like don't want to play golf. Like Brandon's not interested. Like Thibodeau.
Does Shane still play with you?
Yeah, me and Shane play all the time. We're playing tomorrow.
Outside?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, we still play.
Well, actually, it's been kind of warm this year. This fall has been pretty warm, so.
Yeah, and my dad is going with us, so he's like, I want to play with you young fellas. You guys are fun. And I was like, yeah, Dad. Well, he was like,
I like your dad impersonation, by the way. That was a good impersonation of him.
Not gonna lie, I don't even think he said the word fellas. He probably be like young whippersnappers or whatever he would say. I don't know what it is. But I always thought it would be interesting because I'm like, I think me and him talked about this one time when I was at your house. But I'm like, Vitor, if you got into golf, bro, like it would be dangerous, man, because golf is just so expensive. Like,
yeah.
You used to play ball, right? Speaking of which, since we're on, because I was just gonna bring up like shoes for golf or shoes for ball. You're wearing fire Air Forces right now.
I am. Do you want to know? Actually, I didn't.
Where did you get them? By the way,
I didn't tell you where I got them. So my brother, I think I told you, just moved.
Oh, and I'm wearing Air Forces too. I didn't even realize that. They're all whites.
Yeah, mine are real. I'm way cooler though.
Mine are real too.
No, mine are way cooler.
Oh.
Look
yeah, I know.
Bottom blue.
You know what? Throw it up on here. You know, we're not.
That's my phone.
Nice, love that.
So
love that.
My brother moved from Oregon recently with his family.
Yes.
And they lived in the
same. Closer.
Oh,
to the mic.
sorry. They lived in Portland, and that's where Nike's headquarters are.
Portland,
Oregon.
Yeah, Portland.
So they got like, it's literally like a once in a lifetime chance because you have to know somebody to be able to get in. We've been to the Adidas warehouse store in Portland, Oregon, but never the Nike one.
That thing must be huge. I remember going to the Nike store in Boston.
But this is like their headquarters too. So it's like where all of like the corporate people, but it's not just the store. It's like, it's hard to explain. I don't really know.
You're right. It's not like the
It's not just a regular store, yeah. But so they knew someone that worked there, and they got them tickets to go. You have to get like a special ticket to be able to go in, and every pair of shoes is 50% off. Everything in the whole warehouse is 50% off. And so my brother was just like, everyone, like, just pick something and we'll each get you something. So I was like, I want some shoes, and he sent me these, and I was like,
nice.
Yeah, those ones.
Were you into so for anyone who doesn't know, you were quite the ball player back in the day.
I was.
Did you think I was gonna bring up ball, by the way?
I don't know. I told you I'm very go with the flow.
Dude, especially
whatever you want to talk about, I'm down for. So basketball is kind of hard not to talk about when it comes to me. I feel like it's such a big part of my life.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you, what was the most money you ever spent on ball shoes? Because now I feel like I don't want to be like, I've been trying to do this really quick. A couple actually really quick things. Rabbit trail after rabbit trail.
Yeah, that's okay.
So I had Jessie just on, and I was trying to tell her, and I think a couple episodes before this, like Greg was always gives me feedback when I ask him about like podcasting or whatever. He's like, yeah, just try to lessen the ums, the ahs, the likes, and I just saying not putting like in a sentence or it's funny ... or whatever. That is like my two things.
Yeah, you just said like as you said that. So
exactly.
I'm the same way. So I say like a lot as well. I think it's just the way that people talk nowadays. People say like a lot, and it's hard to break habits, but you'll do great. I think you sound great.
Thanks.
But it's good
I appreciate it.
It's good that Greg's giving you more the constructive criticism. I'll be the cheerleader. I think you sound amazing.
Yeah. So Yeah, we were talking. I was going to say
the most expensive ball shoes.
Oh, yes. And right before that, Jessie, when I was doing the podcast with her, because I was saying how, like, I'm not at the place where I was. So it's still like the Last House on the Left podcast. Now, I like how the ring of it goes. But at the same time, Jessie was like, well, you could also call this the Tangent podcast because you go on so many tangents. I was like, that's so true. So bringing it all back around, basketball shoes. What was the most money you ever bought for a shoe?
So,
I can tell you mine.
What is it?
I bought these. I bought at the time. I bought Damian Lillard's like shoe for like $140, which was a good amount. But I don't know why. I think I got like a work bonus or something from Target at the time or whatever. And I bought me, Shane, and Robert shoes.
Wow.
So I got Shane like the old like hardened ones.
No, you got Vitor shoes too.
Oh right.
Yeah, the red, white, and orange ones. Yeah,
that is true. Was that at the same time? Was that for his? That might have been for his birthday. I think it was around the same time because Christmas gifts I gave Shane and Robert some. I got Rob these old Currys. If I actually had the monitor pulled up, so for future episodes, the monitor will be more like in the mix for when I do more podcasts. Be like, pull that up, okay? But it's like, dude, I can barely like even set up the mics. I don't know.
It's okay. We got there, right? That's what matters. We didn't have to say anything about how long it took.
Yeah.
We just pretend it didn't take long.
In fact, I might just edit that out.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I think the
you got him. I think they were hardened.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they were the red and white volume ones.
Yeah, they were sick. He still has them.
I remember when I first gave it to him, he was like, dude, no. Yeah. And he like couldn't believe it. I'm like, yeah, man. I'm like, it's for you. He's like, dude, I will wear these. I will get better. I know you're helping me get better. And I was like, dude, this is coming from the guy who like had never played basketball before. And then like a year later, like him and Robert were like doing literally 25 points a game. It was only them two scoring on the team.
Yeah. I mean, except the occasional from maybe one other person, but
yeah.
Once in a while, but it was definitely just the two of them carrying the entire team for sure.
Yeah.
I wish I got to see the year before play, because the year before when I was a sophomore, I was still at Merrimack. So I didn't get to see it when you guys won the championship. That's when you were on the team. It was Vitor. Was Shane on the team then?
That was, you said
my sophomore year, so it was your senior year.
I was 2 years old.
Yeah.
You're 24.
I'm turning 25 end of this month.
Yeah. So that would have been the year that Shane was.
Yeah. And so and then there was someone else, I don't remember, but like I remember you guys were good that year.
Yeah, we had Jack, we had Josh Jackson's older brother, Lamonte.
Okay. Was he the really tall one?
Yeah.
Yes.
He was our Kevin Garnett. But yeah, did you say what shoe that you?
Oh no, not yet. So I think I know that it was this pair of shoes, but I can't remember the exact amount. But I'm pretty sure it was $175.
Really?
Yeah, it was Jordans.
Nice.
I really wanted those. I'm pretty sure though my parents made me, because they were only willing to spend like $140 or something like that.
Yeah.
And so they're like,
that's
you can
pretty
pay
generous,
for the rest.
I
mean, I played in nationals, so it's not like, I was doing it just playing
days, right?
MYA, like just a easy league. It was competitive, so they were it was an investment almost for them.
Yeah.
But they were like, yeah, we're not going to give you more than this, so if you want to get that pair, then you have to pay some of it. And I really wanted the Jordans. But I've had a lot of basketball shoes throughout the years. I had to get at least one new pair every year because I'd wear them out.
Oh, I go through shoes like nobody's business. Yeah. It's a little bit better now because of like with FedEx, I just kind of wear the same crappy shoes. But I even I couldn't find my work shoes the other day, so I was delivering, and I have these like red and black Air Forces, and they got so much. I'm not that anal about like creasing the shoes, like the front of the tongue, like where your toes are and stuff.
Yeah, when you like stand on, like if you stand on your tippy toes, it makes the crease.
Yeah. But nowadays it's like, I don't know. It was just crazy because like 140, like then when I was in high school working at Market Basket, like freaking 9 hours a week was like felt like it was $300 or more.
Oh yeah,
now
for sure.
Now it's a little different. So
For sure. That's what happens when you grow up, sadly. But
that was so funny when you said that because you like longingly looked
yeah,
because
after buying a house, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, things
Yeah.
are expensive for sure. And with inflation, now I have real people problems. I wish my only problem was paying an extra $35 for my Jordan shoes instead of having to pay a mortgage. So
yeah, I feel that.
but I definitely my go-to shoe were LeBrons. I got LeBrons almost
You had the
every
blue
year.
and white LeBrons,
I
right?
had just all blue. I had my favorite.
Okay.
I still have them. It was because my shoe size hasn't changed since I was like 13 or 14. So I still have those just in case I decide to play basketball again, which I want to.
You never know. My sister Mariah is actually playing in some. Obviously, she's in Huntington Beach for FBI. Who she's actually coming in. Quick preface, guys. My sister Mariah is coming in to do a podcast. We're gonna. Oh, you spilled it on yourself.
Yes.
Oh, you shouldn't have said anything, and no one would have noticed probably.
Well, hopefully they won't. You can edit that part out.
Yeah, we'll edit it out. But basically, preface that my sister Mariah's come on. She's an FBI agent. She's in the National Reserves, and she's an ex-cop. So we're gonna have some like really cool convos.
I'm sure she has some cool stories.
Yeah. Moving along though, since I know we're pressed for time, because once again I'm just a little bit behind the ball on things.
We can always do this again.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, part 1, part 2. Well, once I get the interface working, I'm doing this. I'm gonna do this certain type of podcast called Third Wheeling. So it's like me and a couple.
That's funny.
But I need it. I think it would be really, really funny.
I like that. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
You're so creative.
Thanks,
See,
man.
I told you I'd be your cheerleader.
I know we were talking about high school really quick. It's funny because like when I have some friends on, like a good amount of people that have come on are still. I just know a lot of people. I'm close with friends from high school still, which is like very, very rare because
yeah.
I've been out of high school for like 7 years, right? I graduated in 2016 and it's 2024. No, 8 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Scary.
Look where I am now. doing a podcast. But when we were talking about high school and whatnot, this thing keeps moving. So if there's any extra mic movement or audio, guys, I'm sorry about that. But we didn't even become friends till like after high school. I feel like, or maybe your senior year. Obviously, I helped out, and I helped out because I wanted to get paid like $200 for the whole, or was it 200? I think that was good for being an assistant coach, but on the girls' team, I remember. Was that where we became like friends? Because you went to really quickly. You went to NCA. Like you've been part of the Gate City crowd for a while. The church itself.
Yeah.
Right?
So, I mean, my parents met at Gate City when it was Grace Fellowship. So before they had the name change.
Grace
so
Fellowship.
I've been going there since I was born. Yeah. And then I went to NCA from kindergarten until 7th grade. And then that's when I obviously played basketball and I wanted to go to Merrimack to be with my friends.
Yeah.
But
you didn't go to. I was gonna say you wouldn't go. Oh, you're talking about Merrimack. I was gonna say nobody goes to NCA to play sports.
No. So that's why I left.
Hate though,
I left NCA to go play sports and be with my sports friends. But I knew you in middle school, so no, it was 7th grade.
Because I would literally just be like, "Hi, Nicole," and you were like a friendly kid.
No, was it 7th grade or?
No, it must have been younger because I was in 8th grade.
Yeah.
I came in 8th grade, so you must have been in 6th.
But I'm trying to remember when I left. I thought that I had left in 7th grade, but I think my first year at Merrimack was 8th grade.
Yeah,
so,
didn't you go 8, 9, 10 at Merrimack?
Yes. So
you public schooler, you.
I met you when I was in 6th grade, and I remember. I don't know why, and you might not remember this, but I don't know. I don't remember the specifics just because it was, 1,000 years ago. But someone called you Ben Jammin. Like, jammin' as in, rock jamming.
No, yeah. It could have been Sarah.
And all
from
I
back in the day.
remember,
That's what she always called me.
I didn't really know you yet at the time, and all I remember, I was like, wow, that's the coolest name. It's like he has the coolest nickname,
That's
Ben
right,
Jammin.
Nicole.
That is like, that's so cool. I want to be friends with him. He has the coolest nickname.
That's funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just remember always thinking how cool it was that they called you Ben Jammin.
Yeah, it's just interesting because it was one of those things where like I would just see you in the hallway. I'd be like, "Oh, that's Nicole," and I would just be like, "Hey, what's going on?" And then that would be it.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
But,
I was probably more. I don't know. I've never really been shy, but
No,
I probably
think you're pretty
wasn't.
friendly.
Yeah, I probably wasn't super like. I was only in 6th grade, so I was probably, I would say hi, but I might not have been like jumping.
Yeah. But anyways, to make a long story short, I don't know how we became. Oh, was it like? Didn't you say tent?
Yeah. So then
Okay,
fast
yeah.
forward, like when I went back to NCA, for my junior year, I went to tent the first like week of school or whatever, or like right before school was about to start,
Yeah.
and I saw you, and I was like, oh, like I know Ben. We
Yeah.
weren't really super close because
Yeah.
I hadn't spoken to you in years, but I went up and I said hi and asked if I could sit with you, and you said yeah, and we were like in the prayer circle together, and then
Yeah.
that's where, and I was friends with John too. John and I were really close because he
Oh,
was
yeah.
dating Cameron for a little. But
Yeah.
actually, me and
You two
John
are still really close.
got close before he started dating Cameron.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember how. I feel like I don't remember how or why we became friends, but we just started
Yeah.
talking, and he's funny. He's a funny guy, so we just got along really well. We went out to Chili's one night together too, and actually we went to go see a movie too
Yeah.
together. This was right before him and Cameron started dating.
Yeah.
We went out to Chili's and we were going to go see a movie. I don't remember what movie it was, but it was an R-rated movie, and I was still 16, so I couldn't get in because he was a senior and I was still a junior, and I couldn't get in, so we had to leave. So that was that's a funny memory I have with
funny
John.
because like you were like kind of a horror fan for a little while.
I was, yeah, right around that time too. So I think it probably was a scary movie that we were going to see. I'm not anymore though.
I know, it's so funny. I talk about like horror so much on this podcast.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's getting to the point where people like Ben say something else. But
I like horror stuff. I always liked watching horror movies and stuff, but
there's just so many levels to it now, and it's like I understand why.
I can't do gore. That's the one thing I can't do.
Have you heard of the Terrifier movies?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I've seen that. That guy's I can't do clowns either though.
Shane dressed up as him. I'm gonna try to pull that up actually.
Please don't.
in post production, but like he had the whole like setup and whatever.
Yeah, I do not like that's like with the black and white clown face,
Art
right?
the Clown.
Yeah,
baby.
Art, that's it. He freaks me out.
Yeah,
so.
that stuff is so over the top. But
See, my type of scary movie is like
but you thought Midsummer wasn't scary. 'Cause that's like a psychological thriller or a psychological horror. It is thrilling, but I'm just saying shout out to you 'cause most people see that and they're like 'cause my sisters are huge like Florence Pugh fans.
Yeah.
So like I'm like at one point like Ben, let's watch a scary movie. I'm like you guys don't want to watch one.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it 'cause I feel like I'm that guy where I'm like, dude, I get scared with most movies like pretty easily, but there's something where I just have it's bad, slowly but surely maybe God's convicting me on it, but I have just this dark sense of curiosity where I'm like, what's gonna happen next? Like how far can you push it?
I get that. Yeah. I feel like you get desensitized to it a lot too, though, because
I don't know if I'm desensitized, but that is a good thing to think about, I guess.
Because it's weird. So when right around that time, like when I was like 15, 16, right before I went back to NCA, I was in a huge like American Horror Story kick. Like I loved American Horror Story. Yeah. They are great TV shows, but they're messed up. And I think it was like a year ago, I went back to try and watch one. And I turned it on and I was like, I can't watch this. Yeah. I can't anymore. Because it bothered me too much and before I was like, this is a good TV show, but it's not really doing anything. And now I'm like, I can't watch it.
It just randomly popped up in my head when you went, or whatever. That was during your ASAP Rocky days. Wasn't that your rapper that you would listen to?
Well, that was Eminem.
Okay, I thought there was like some specific guy where I'm like, you listen to them, like a pretty hood rapper.
I mean, I liked A$AP Rocky too.
I knew you were an Eminem,
but I know like
fan.
Most of Eminem's songs. Yeah. I couldn't say them all. I was like, this is embarrassing, and it's stupid because it's like I thought that it was so cool. It was a joke, like an inside joke, but my friends used to call me Slim Shady Haney because that was my maiden name, and so that was like my name and all of their phone contact name for me because I loved Eminem so much.
Should I put that as the title instead of your actual name?
You can do whatever you want.
Whatever I want.
Whatever
okay, cool.
you want.
The editing in this one's
this is your podcast, Ben. I'm your guest. But when you come onto my podcast, that means one day.
Oh wow.
I can put whatever name I want for you.
Okay.
So it's gonna be Benjamin.
I was gonna say you're gonna say it's Benjamin. Yeah. So going back to how we met and whatnot, it was funny because, like I said, through basketball, and I was just more around. I guess I was like just friends with Vitor at the time.
Yeah.
When he first came on, and then I was like, oh yeah, he's dating. Do you have a quick story about how you guys actually? I don't even, to be honest, I should know these things.
How we started dating.
I was like literally one of the groomsmen in your wedding.
Yeah, it's okay.
You guys had a fun wedding. You had a fun wedding.
Yeah, I think.
Do you remember the Airbnb?
I was just gonna say, I think the Airbnb was more fun afterwards. Though.
That was back when I was like, wow, this is like, you have kids now, so you have to be more like, I get it, more mature and more out of things, and I'm still the young part.
The single. It's just because you're. I'm not throwing shade. It's just because you're single.
I will be single for the rest of my life.
No, you won't, Ben. I fully believe that there's an amazing girl out there for you.
We go. Yeah.
I know there is. I don't just think I know. I really do.
But it's just funny, like looking back on those times, because it was like people forget, like you and Vitor were a hoot, man. You still are, but just back in the whole air, because we were all pretty much like most of us turned like 21 at the same time. Mm-hmm. Some of us like drank before we were 20.
I was 20. I hadn't turned 21 yet. No, wait.
But here's the thing too, also, like if you are getting, I'm not for like justifying things here and there, but I'm like, dude, if you're getting married, it's like,
how are you not allowed to drink?
That's like a bigger step,
Yeah.
So I just thought it was interesting,
Yeah, but I'll tell you, I'll quickly say, because you asked how we met.
Yeah.
Or how we started dating. So it was actually it was Spooky World. So me and John were gonna go to Spooky World with.
Shout out to you, John Lapa. I miss you.
Yeah, I miss you too, John.
Get out of Florida, man. Get out of there.
Yeah, the nice weather. Get out of there and come to the cold and the snow.
I know. Well, it's crazy. Nice weather. Speaking of nice weather, though, his house almost got. I think this is okay to share. His house is fine, but like they were like right in the heat
hurricane.
Of
That's so scary.
Yeah, it was nuts. Thankfully, everything's okay. But
yeah. I haven't seen a picture of him in a while too. Is he still like
John
Mr.
is like
Muscle Man still?
Yeah, but he's like 130, 140.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's interesting. Really quickly, John, I'll tag you in the comments because I would actually love to have John on the podcast too. John actually went on Greg's podcast, and they talked about like diet and lifting and stuff way back in the day. But specifically, that was one of the things where like John's, I guess it was seeing his, I don't know, his true face or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like when he lost all that weight, it was like, dude, like you look totally different, like even face wise. Mm-hmm. Just because you could see his like jaw more defined or whatever. But I'm like, that's so interesting that people like can act how much like
weight changes their appearance.
Yeah, because that was like a serious amount. I don't know what I'm sure he was at like a certain around like 200 or more, but then he dropped like almost. It must be 100 pounds. I should text him because excuse me, I don't remember what the exact weight was. But anyways, we're getting off topic. So it's 6:20 right now. Can you do 15 more minutes?
I'll stay at least I'll stay longer. I'll stay till probably like 7. Because Vitor will be fine.
That would be amazing.
And I'm enjoying and I have more stuff I want to talk about.
Okay, cool, because I have a lot more too. I know, right? You know what's really funny too? I feel like me and you are like very similar.
Yeah.
Like energy wise.
Yeah.
And obviously like I wasn't an athlete. Here's
That's
the thing.
not true.
I was an athlete, but I'm like, if I obviously so I haven't. My knee. You used to have knee problems.
I
Actually,
still
too.
have knee problems. Sadly, I'll have like the knee of a 95-year-old grandma.
I told you I have no cartilage in my right knee too, right?
I didn't. No, you definitely told me that, but
yeah. So I'm trying to. I'm probably gonna get knee injections. I'm just figuring that out with like my insurance and whatever. That's another thing. I don't want to talk about that. But I just thought it was so funny because like. I just feel like me and you are very similar because like I want to go and talk about maybe like the encounter days and whatnot too. But I just thought it was so funny the way that maybe I feel like you're not going on as many tangents as I am because you don't have to host this thing. I'm just freaking ping ponging all over the place. Oh well, yeah, I don't know. I just meant that was funny in a way because I feel like at the time even when we were. I think it must have been 10th that we were hanging out more often and stuff because that's where I started to meet and I think like times after 10 like where people would like you would be one of the you know what, no PSA needed. You were one of the rare people that would like give reflections, like you would be in a sermon or you'd be in a worship time or whatever, and then you would reflect on it. Actually, I'm kind of getting ahead of things, but I just thought that was very interesting in the way that I'm going on tangents, aren't I? I'm going to edit this out.
That's okay.
This is whatever. But you know what I'm trying to say,
yeah,
right?
Of course.
I feel like we're wired similarly when it comes to people, and
we're both very outgoing. We're both friendly people. Yeah. I feel like we both are very, like, upfront with how we feel, and
yes,
I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I feel like you do as well.
Yeah. So wrapping up the Vitor thing. So you guys met.
So I texted him. So what happened was I thought that he was obviously really cute, which everyone did, including you.
I did.
Yeah.
Handsome ass man over there.
So it was definitely a God thing. So I'll say that just to start off before rewind before Spooky World. So he was in my English class and he was supposed to have a free period during my English class, but because he was, from a different country, they thought that he should be in a grade below for English because his English might not be.
Yeah, Vitor was an exchange student at the time.
Yeah, so his English may not be as good as maybe someone in his class. So
which his English was always, I thought, was
great. Yeah, he definitely it's funny. I have like saved screenshots from our first conversations together, and all of the like grammatical errors and spelling errors are so funny.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It was cute. I thought it was cute. And so he was late to class because he thought he had a free period, and Mrs. Morey was like, "Oh no, you need to go to English class with the juniors." Yeah. And so I had taken a seat next to Amanda because she was one of the only people I knew in the class or like felt comfortable sitting next to. And then, do you remember Sasha?
Yeah.
He was sitting next to me. There was only like 2 seats left, and I took the one next to Amanda, and then he got up and left and went to the only other seat. And I was like, okay, like, I was like, fine, you don't want to sit next to me? Like, I made it into a joke just because I was trying to be funny. But then Vitor came, and so the only open seat was the one next to me. And that one across from the room wasn't open anymore. So he sat next to me, and like I introduced myself because he wasn't saying anything, and I was like, oh, I'll be nice and introduce myself. And then we just started talking, and the reason why I texted him the first time was because I was like, oh, maybe like if I message him, like we'll start talking more. And so I asked him what the homework was, even though I knew. I was like, what's our homework in English? I was like, hey, like, how are you? I said like, oh, my friend isn't texting me back, and so do you mind telling me what the homework is? And then he continued the conversation and started texting me more, and so I was like, oh, like maybe there's something there.
Yeah, what was his first impression? Was he thinking the same thing?
So
I thought
said
he wasn't. He's like he didn't want to get involved with like
he didn't.
American girls,
he
right?
He wasn't interested in any American girls until he met me. So
that's funny.
Once he met me, he was like, all right, I'm now interested in American girls.
Yeah.
No, but he said that so actually it was super embarrassing. So I introduced myself to him when he sat down. I was like, hey, like my name's Nicole, by the way. And he's like, oh, hi, I'm Vitor. And I'm not kidding you, like 30 seconds to a minute later, he's like, what was your name again? And I was like, okay, he's no interest in me whatsoever. Couldn't even remember my name. And so, yeah, I was definitely crushed. But he now, like, hearing about this, it's okay. He said that he was nervous because he said that he thought that I was pretty. And so when I spoke to him, it was kind of just like, would you like he wasn't really paying attention. Yeah. And so he thought that I was pretty. And then when I texted him, I don't really know how he felt when I texted him, but he said he wanted to keep talking to me. And so then what happened was he was texting me for like a week, and John knew that I liked him, and he was friends with John too at the time. And I was like, oh, John, like, let's go to Spooky World, and then I'll invite Vitor too so we can all hang out. Yeah. And so we ended up going to Spooky World. It was me, John, Sidis, and Vitor. And then while we were there,
as you were going through the hallway, you just like held on to him.
No, I was holding on to Sidis because I didn't know.
What was he holding on to?
He was probably pretending he wasn't scared, but I'm sure he was. Him and John were together.
Mr. Unfazed. That is your husband, Mr. Unfazed.
But I knew that he liked me because we were like over by the arcade area, and then he was like, Nicole, like, which teddy bear do you want me to win for you? And he like said, and I was
dies
like,
of cringe. No, I'm just kidding. That is cute.
And I think I still have it up in the attic. He won one of them for me, and it's
a relic of your relationship.
Yeah, and then he put his arm around me when we went on a hayride, and I was like, oh, he likes me. And like a week or two later, we all went to Scream Fest. It was like me, Cora, Kendra, John, Vitor, and he took me on the sky ride. And he was like, I don't know what the future holds just because I might have to go back to Brazil. But he's like, I want you to be my girlfriend. I was like, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, that's how he asked me. That was 8 years ago.
Yep.
We've been together 8 years.
2 kids, married.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, really quickly, like I said, I think some of my people when I was like, oh, I'm having Nicole on, they're like, oh, are you gonna talk about motherhood? So I'm like, I think I brought it up earlier. So
yeah,
I did want to touch on it really quickly.
Yeah,
just
of course.
To see what
I could talk about motherhood for
I know
days,
that's why I said real quickly because
it's my whole life right
10
now.
10 p.m. and Vitor's like,
yeah,
Nicole, where are you?
Do you mind if I just check my phone real quick just to make sure everything's okay?
So here's a funny thing. Like, I can do a really good, like, I think Vitor impression when he says your name. He's always like, Nicole.
That was so good.
There's some way that he, like, what, are you joking?
Yes.
Yeah. There's some way that he says the O, I feel like, where he's like, Nicole.
Yeah, I think that was better. I feel like it's more like, he doesn't really pronounce the L. It's more like Nicole.
Nicole.
And in Portuguese, my name is actually Nicole.
Nicole?
Nicole. Nicole.
Nicole.
Yeah, Nicole.
Oh, I see. And now you're semi-bilingual, right?
Vitor says that I'm fluent in Portuguese, so I would say that I am bilingual.
How did you all do that, by the way? Because obviously you've been to Brazil how many times now?
Twice? I've gone 3 different times. Okay. I went down there for 2 weeks when he proposed. Yeah. And then when we got married, I was down there for 3 months. Yeah. And then we went down there last year with Theo. We took Theo to meet Vitor's side of the family, and we were there for about 2 weeks. So it happened because I have you heard of Duolingo?
Yeah.
So when was
that a thing 8 years ago, though?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I started using Duolingo.
That is our sponsor today, Duolingo.
And I was probably doing it for about a year after I met Vitor, just to like learn. I like memorization. Like I still have memorized like verses that I learned in first grade at school. Like I just am good at memorization. So I like learning new languages. And so I did Duolingo for about a year. And then I went to live in Brazil for 3 months. And I feel like that just kind of put everything together for me, because I was around it constantly. You
just had to learn.
Yeah, I mean, his mom doesn't speak English, and I was living with her. Thais, yes.
That's a sick name.
There's no name equivalent in English for that. Like, usually there's a name equivalent. Awesome. Like, there's Ben's down there, but it's Bain.
Yeah.
It's Benjamin.
Yeah. That's what, once in a while, like, because people like would always like mess around with my name a little bit in high school, but sometimes he would be like Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I pick him up or whatever in my parents' Crown Vic to like, we going to the Y, man? Yeah. That's awesome though.
Yeah, it's good, and we're teaching Theo Portuguese too.
Yeah.
He can count to 20 in Portuguese and in English. He likes, and he knows a lot of colors, and so hopefully, and I'm gonna be homeschooling them too. So,
really?
Yeah. So I'm going to do
When did you decide that?
I've wanted to, honestly, for a long time, because just...
Oh, my bad. Sorry,
you
was your foot.
Don't do that again. It's okay.
Yeah. You know what's actually really funny on a funny note? One room over is where like me, Chris Bourgeois, and a couple other people would have like our reading group, like in like first or second grade.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this girl, or what? It might have been after that. But that was the first time I didn't realize I subliminally ever tried to flirt with a girl. Was like literally playing footsies. I remember.
Wow.
I don't know. Not that I was just playing footsies now, but it literally happened like 20 feet away, 15 years ago.
Wow.
But or actually no, I'm
with
26,
who?
Right?
Who was it? Who is the lucky lady?
Her name's Kayla Lockwood. She went to actually NCA before I went there.
I feel like that name sounds really familiar.
Yeah, you might have known her. She's actually married now and lives in she went to Messiah for college and whatever. But yeah, her and her family were big. They were like a one of the not staple families, but when MCA was a thing, like their mom was like either a secretary or involved in the staff here or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought that was really funny because I just had like just flashed in my brain. So,
but motherhood.
So yeah,
we keep going on tangents.
Yeah, just to wrap, not to wrap it up, but like, what is, or to break it down a little bit simpler, like, what is something that you did not expect at all in motherhood, and what is something that you like expected that you were like prepared? Like, what was something you were prepared for and not prepared for?
There's a lot of things for both of them. So those are good questions. I don't even know where to start. I'll just start talking. With Theo, and every child is different, so there's different expectations as well. You know, like with Theo, I was expecting it to be hard. So it kind of goes hand in hand, but I did not expect it to be as hard as it was. It is hard. I will be honest. It is exhausting. I am so tired now.
When I see you, and like I said, I don't see you as much now. Like, I literally get a little tired myself. And that is so disrespectful to say. It's so disrespectful.
I don't look that tired.
No, I'm just saying 45 minutes in, I'm just like, oh my God.
I'm tired, especially with two. I mean, Lincoln... It's definitely the second time around. It's a lot easier in a lot of ways, but it's harder in a lot of ways because Lincoln likes to nurse, and so he'll nurse at least every 2 hours, if not every hour at night. So I'm up every hour, and then it takes me 15 minutes at least to fall asleep, and then fall asleep for 30 minutes, and then he's already up to nurse again. And with Theo, he was my only, so I could sleep in if I wanted. I could sleep during the day, but now that I have a toddler who's ready to go every day and play and run around, I don't have that luxury. So that's definitely something that's been hard the second time around. But with Theo, he was, I think I've told you, he was colicky, And that was really, really, really hard for me because he just cried for like.
For people that don't know, really quickly, not to cut you off, could you describe colic for people that don't know?
So
for all the men, the male listeners.
I thought that colic was usually with like. I mean, it sometimes happens with moms that breastfeed, but usually breastfeeding is more gentle around babies' bellies.
Yeah.
But okay, we're gonna get into the specifics now. So I have a very high milk supply, which like when I don't know if do you know what a letdown is? So
I'm getting educated, and so you can share whatever you want. If not, like I said,
okay, I mean, this is my everyday. I just don't want to make you uncomfortable with all the breastfeeding
I have 4 sisters,
talk.
so
okay,
that's cool. I mean, everyone breastfeeds. So
I have a very high supply and I have a very fast letdown, and so I didn't know it. But the reason why Theo is colicky, which means like he just cries, so to be considered colicky, a baby has to cry for at least 3 hours every day consecutively for at least 3 days, and I think that's it, and then it's like or like for like a week straight, or I don't remember. It's like something like I know it's 3 hours for at least like 3 days, something along the lines of that, but it was for like 7 months where he would cry at least probably 3 to 5 hours a day. Just for no reason. There was nothing I could do to make him stop. And
also, just so everyone else knows too, so Theo is your is the firstborn.
Yes.
Well, also, maybe we could get into stuff before that too.
Yes.
But Theo is now 3.5.
No, he's 2. He's almost 2.5. So it's not. I know it feels like It feels like he's 10 years old already.
I'm sorry. I should know this.
He turned 2 at the end of July. So he'll be 2.5 end of January.
Gotcha.
So
anyways, you were
I cried a lot. He cried a lot. It was rough. I thought that it was something in my diet. Like sometimes maybe if the baby is allergic to milk, I have to stop eating or drinking milk, things with milk in it, because it goes into my breast milk. And so I cut out like milk, I cut out caffeine, I cut out chocolate, I cut out anything that I thought could be causing him gas, so colic is essentially gas in the belly. It's just super painful for them, and they don't know what pain is, and so when they have a ton of gas in their bellies, they just cry. And so that was really rough. And so the reason why I'm saying this is because with Lincoln, he was born and I told the doctors, I was like, look, my first was colicky and I cannot have another colicky baby, because I had a breastfeeding consultant come in. And she pretty much told me the reason why he was so colicky was because of how fast my letdown is. Oh, and I need to explain that to you. So letdown is when a baby starts to nurse on you and then your milk like comes in. It's a really hard feeling to describe. It's just like it pretty much just feels.
Is it painful?
It's not painful at first, maybe a little, but it's tingly. Like it feels like you have pins and needles.
Oh, okay.
So yes, it's a very strange sensation, but your milk comes in and then your milk shoots out.
Dude, I don't know any of this.
So it's like a shower head. So like I'll have like 5. It's literally like, and it comes out.
Dude, I'm gonna clip that.
It's so like. So some women don't produce as much as others, which is sad because they can't breastfeed. And some people overproduce, and I'm definitely an overproducer, which is hard in other ways as well. Because then I get engorged as well. I don't know if you know what that is. So that's not fun. But so sometimes it will come out so fast that my kids, Theo used to, and Lincoln will pull back, and then the milk will just like shower on their face. So the reason why Theo was so colicky was because my letdown came down so fast that he would choke on the milk and gulp it down. And so he would swallow air as he did that. So it wasn't anything that I was eating, but it was just, it's something that I couldn't really stop.
Gotcha.
But I knew that going into this time. So I wore a nipple shield this time as I breastfed Lincoln, and he wasn't colicky. So that made life a lot easier this time around.
So it sounds like from what you're saying is that like some of the more challenging parts of motherhood are more the physical health of the baby specifically?
Yeah, I get anxiety. So like a postpartum anxiety specifically, like after you give birth, your hormones are like through the roof. And so I was super anxious as well right after Theo was born. I was better this time with Lincoln just because I had been through it before. I'm like, he's fine.
That's
you know?
also, I don't know if you're leading to this, but I, I'm trying to think of where what got me thinking about this specific topic. But anyways, like postpartum depression, I think I was maybe talking to one of my sisters about this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, imagine for me, like someone who struggles with like depression and a little bit of anxiety. It's even more these days, but imagine being that and then like still having to do all your mom duties.
Mm-hmm. It's hard.
It must be
Yeah, it's hard.
awful.
But thankfully, like I already struggle with some of that stuff, so I've been on meds, and so because of that, after I had Theo and Lincoln, it was kind of like, just another day, because I'm already used to feeling that way compared to someone that's never had depression or anxiety before and doesn't know how to deal with it. Like I can cope with it better, I feel like, because it's something that I've struggled with for a while. So
I didn't. Yeah, that's an interesting way to go about it. I wasn't originally thinking you were gonna say it like that.
It's obviously still hard, but just because I have the tools maybe that someone wouldn't have if they hadn't dealt with it before. But being a mom is really hard. It is. It's the best, like, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's like, I'm not saying that I've always wanted to be a mom and I want more kids for sure, because it's just
how many more?
Well, if I could have it my way, it depends. Vitor after Lincoln was like, all right, we're done. But I know he wants more, and he's just...
On the record?
What?
Is that on the record?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, he definitely wants more. It's just not yet. We have only a 5-month-old, so we're still... The first year is definitely the hardest. I'd say another thing that's really hard for me, too, it could be different for other people, but I like sleep, and you don't get a lot of it when you have a newborn.
I could not, bro.
So that part is really rough too. And actually this time around, compared to the first time, after I gave birth to Theo, so each of my pregnancies I gained 45 pounds in each. So really? I gained 45 with Theo, and then I gained 45 with Lincoln. And with Theo, I lost it like within 6 months. Didn't have to do anything, never went to the gym, ate whatever I wanted. Because sometimes they say breastfeeding helps you lose weight. But this time around, I gained 45 pounds, and I've only lost about half of it. So I still have another, 20-ish pounds to go. And that's been hard for me this time around, because it's just you put your body through a lot as well. To go 9 months gaining that much weight and then lose it all quickly, or having to, people, I feel like, put a lot of pressure on moms to get back to their pre-baby weight.
Yeah, that's...
It's hard, because I don't like, being heavier. I'm definitely, I'm like 20 pounds heavier right now than what I usually am, but I know I'll get there. And this time around, I think that breastfeeding is actually hurting me, because you get really hungry. Like, you get starving because of, it takes at least 500 extra calories a day that you burn to make breast milk. And so I'm having a harder time losing the weight this time, and that's been hard, what I didn't have that with Theo.
Wow. That's a lot. One thing this was what I was trying to say earlier that was on the tip of my tongue when I was saying how we're so much alike.
Mm-hmm. I
really like, well, one, I just appreciate the open vulnerability. I know that's how you just choose to live your life, but I feel like a lot of stuff that you just mentioned, the fact that you're just this is kind of just what life is, and this is where I'm at right now. And not that everyone goes about, I'm sure all girls and women go through motherhood differently to some degree, or have their own experience at least. But it's cool that you're being so open and whatnot about all that stuff. So I always appreciate and respect that and love that about you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to ever pretend like I know everything and I have my life together, because
No, I'm just saying I didn't even know about half the stuff you were talking about earlier, which makes sense.
I'm an open book, as you know, just like you. So just like, I mean, and I feel like it's so important to talk about this stuff too, because I personally don't do well if I keep everything. Like Vitor deals with things internally, and I'm not like that.
You guys are home. You're not quite opposites.
We are, in a lot of ways we are. We're
somewhat.
very similar in a lot of ways, and we're opposites in a lot of ways. Like he's very much an introvert. He likes to deal with things internally. Going out for him is harder for him, and I'm much more like, I love being around people. Now that I have kids, it's more like it's harder just because I'm tired all the time, but there'll come a day, you know, when I can go out again if I want to, and I don't have to worry about bedtimes or waking up at 5 a.m. So, but yeah, I'm definitely an open book, and I'm someone that likes to talk about things because.
Yeah, you're just a verbal processor, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like, I know you wanted me to mention this too, like before I had Theo,
If you're comfortable,
of course. I had a miscarriage before I had Theo, and that was so hard. And
I remember just hearing that on your couch. Really, I know I'm interrupting you, but
no, you're fine.
Hearing you on your couch mention it, I forget what it was from either. I think it was one of the times where I actually didn't. I literally just dropped by, and this was like what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
So
that you told me
it would have been 3 years ago. I would have gotten pregnant. So because it takes 9. Theo was born almost 2.5 years ago, and I got pregnant with him the month after I had a miscarriage. So that was really, really hard. And the reason why I like to talk about stuff is because I thought that I was like the only one. I didn't know anybody that had a miscarriage. Also because I'm young and not a lot. I don't think any of our friends. Well,
I don't know about if you know any other young moms.
Yeah,
sure
exactly.
I do.
I do. I have friends that are moms, but it's like I didn't know anyone that had kids pretty much around my age, let alone was trying to conceive and had a miscarriage. So I felt very alone, and I felt like something was wrong with me. But Chelsea was amazing. She really helped me, and 'cause she talked about it so openly, and I was so upset and so scared and so sad. Like I didn't want to talk about it, but the way she talked about it, she's just, you know how she is, you know, she just radiates joy and love, and she just made me feel so much better about it, and I felt like I wasn't alone. So it made me feel better, and I feel like talking about stuff like that, people can relate to you more. Maybe I'm more relatable if I can be open, and I want to be relatable, I guess, if that makes sense.
No, I totally agree. I think you're spot on with that. I think I guess one other question I would have. So like, what was the what was like you said it was a month after the miscarriage happened that you were found out you were pregnant again?
Yes.
What was that like in the way of, because at the time I'm thinking, you know, for about like a year and a half, I was doing I was putting on the Encounter worship nights with David and you and everybody else. What was that like for your relationship with God at the time? Like processing that, because something that I would always like to, or that I would like to do more on this podcast, is talk about more of the gray areas of faith and whatnot, because we always have our, like, you know, like, I don't want to say like the Christian talking points of like, you know, this is how my life's going right now, and I'm trusting God in this, and I'm serving faithfully in ministry, or I'm with, as my schedule like allows, like I'm invested in this church and whatever. There's this guy that I mentioned. I sent him one of your podcasts. He's the guy that brought up Mike Todd. His name's Tim Ross, and his the whole theme is, he has a podcast called The Basement, which is basically, to make a long story short, it's all about like the power of being vulnerable and whatnot. And the way that I look at my life, especially, I think it was like I kind of already got wind of like how I personally would want to live my life in regards to, because you can live like an authentic life and you don't have to be vulnerable. Like there's a cost of vulnerability. Like people will look at you weird, and especially like with me where I'm in like a lot of like Christian faith circles, but especially now too, where it's like, not that I have like deconstructed my faith, but also as you have in the past, like I had a like I had struggled with my mental health. I almost said hental, with my mental health a good amount of times. I remember one time it was so bad, I pulled up to your house. Remember?
Yeah, I do.
And that was such a heavy night. I remember. There's a certain way why I was going to bring. Oh yeah, in relation to vulnerability, and I think, regarding to that podcast I just mentioned with this guy Tim Ross, like they're like a huge Christian podcast now. They're like top 10 on Spotify and whatever, and not just in regular podcasting, or not just like Christian podcasting, but the whole thing of it. And I just the way that's the way that when I read the Bible and I look at the way that Jesus lived and all this stuff, like personally for me, I'm like, that's the only way that I can see through it. My dad's very similar. Like I'm basically my dad 2.0.
Yeah. I think we all know that.
Yeah. And I've just felt such a, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. It's like I feel a favor from God when I feel that I'm in favor with God when I'm vulnerable or just authentic in the way of, because I just think like we know people that are authentic people and they just come off like very open and honest and caring about things. But for me, like for a while, I just did the whole like fake Christian humble thing, you know, where you're just like, yeah, I love God and I'm happy to play on the worship team during high school and do all this stuff. And because I'm just like, you know, when you're young and you're insecure, you like, you never want to take credit for anything, but you want to be recognized at the same time, right? So I think just on my faith journey specifically as well, I think I'm drawn to people that have that specific. I think it's honestly like a gift from God, because think about like you talk about, you mentioned like Chelsea Gadonian, right, and her story and whatever. There's just a certain grace, I think, that comes on your life when you're open and honest about things, whether it's, you know, I just don't think us Christians, we don't talk about so many things in today's like society and culture, and I don't want to be that guy that on me is like culture, society, as I just say it, right? But I think especially a lot of things that like even like me and one of my close friends talk about now, it's like my goal is not to be like, oh, look at me, I'm different from the crowd now. It's like I want to bring as many people into. I think that all this really stems from is like freedom in Christ and whatever, you know, which I think is a really cool thing. But when I say freedom in Christ, it's not. I know that's like sounds like Christianese to some people, but it's like no, it's a real place of being with God. You know, I think about I mentioned this when I had my podcast with Kylie, but I told you the one time when we had like a freedom service at Light of the World, and I gave up and I gave my whole porn and lust testimony. Did I ever tell you that?
Yeah.
And that was kind of the beginning, which is so funny. Even with something like that too, that even, you know, I have a lot of victory on that specific area in my life. But even from like I don't want to say cultural standpoint, but I just feel like Christian culture is really bad at addressing things like yes, God saved you and he's giving you new life and all this stuff, but like we never talk about like the I guess like David would use this word sanctification, like the process of getting to that new state with God. And I think it starts with being vulnerable, and through being vulnerable, I think you become authentic.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not perfect, and I will never pretend to be perfect, and I told you I wear my heart on my sleeve. I feel like I'm an authentic person, and it's sometimes a curse. I feel like, because I feel like I sometimes share too much. Like I'm like, okay, I should have, and then I'll go back and think about the conversation. I'm like, why didn't I stop talking? Why did I continue on? But so it's definitely a curse too. But I just feel like it's so important to talk about these things, especially when it comes to our failures, to our weaknesses, to what we struggle with, because not only can you get support that way from other people that struggle with it and get help, but I feel like it, like with my shame and with my I've, as you know probably better than anybody, how many mistakes I've made and how many horrible things I've done, but I feel like talking about it and being open about it doesn't let the devil turn that into your story, into your shame. Like, I feel like instead you turn it around to like, look what God's done for me. Like,
exactly.
Yes, I struggle with this stuff, but I have a beautiful family. I have 2 sons. Like, we're doing really well. And so, I try to talk about it more because I feel like it's important to show where you've come from and the progress that God's made in you.
Yeah, and I would, once again, likening to my own thing specifically. So when for me, like everyone has their own vice, right? So mine was like masturbation and porn, right? So my whole thing was, it's the whole thing of like holding that tension, right? So it's like, I am a Christian, I want to be better, but I have a problem looking at porn, or I am a Christian, but I have a problem with the way that I treat people at work, or I am a Christian, but also like when I'm stressed, I want to go and smoke a blunt with my friends or whatever. Or I'm a Christian, but also like I'm dishonest with sometimes my money or whatever because I'm scared about being able to provide for myself, for my family. Like everyone has their own vice, right? I think specifically for me when it comes to, like for me, obviously I talk pretty more openly more about like sex or masturbation or stuff like mental health, because I feel like Christianity does not talk about it as,
it's very taboo.
And I get it, right, too. Like not everyone's like gonna go and doesn't want to air out their dirty laundry. For some reason, for me though, and this is like, you talk about oversharing, right?
If I know any overshares, I feel like it could be you.
But if I'm open and talking about, to be honest, like once again, like I said, you were one of the people that like I said, was it 2 years ago now? I think it was 2 years ago when I made that drive to your guys' house. And now
was it that long ago already?
Well, that was probably the first time you saw me really like break down. Because I've had times where I get like upset, mad, like, or very sad. Yeah. That was one of the times where I was just like, it's one of those times when you have, you ever, it's like when you're like so emotional, you're crying so hard that your head hurts, but you're exhausted at the same time.
Yeah.
So
I mean, are we able to talk about this openly?
Yeah.
I was worried about you.
Yeah.
I was. And that's why, like, even today I was like, how are you doing? Because I want to make sure that you're doing well, genuinely. And when I asked you, like, I'm not the type of person that's just superficial, like, hey, how are you doing? I don't want to hear a superficial answer like, oh, yeah, I'm good. I want to hear, like, tell me.
That's why I hate it, too, because I can't, like, every time I come over, the 2-3 times a year.
Come over more.
You're like, how are you doing? And I was like, stop asking me.
I want to know. I genuinely want to know. Like, I want to know what you're struggling with, because I'm like, I feel like I'm a fix-it type person. Like, I'm a problem solver. If someone's struggling with something, I want to help them, because I know that, like, that's what I would want from other people as well. And I want to just do the right thing by God and by my friends and family. And I just want to love people, pretty much. I think it's so important to love people nowadays in the world that we live in, and with everything that's going on. That's where I'm like, so obviously, like, to preface this, like, basically I had a time where I almost had an attempt on my own life, like I just don't know if I want to say the word itself specifically, because Spotify might like flag it or whatever. But so basically I had one of the times where 2 years ago where I wanted to take my own life. And one of the times I was just like, okay, I'm going down the list. Like, this is so great. I love it because I like being open about this stuff. So maybe someone can hear it and be blessed or whatever. But I'm bringing all this up to say that, like, I am in a better place. Yeah. But I almost wouldn't have been if I wasn't, like, at the time, like, dude, I was like leading worship and doing all this stuff for so long.
And I love doing that. I got life from that. Like I was very involved in church and whatever. And then it got to a point where just other like stuff happened, like through, other disappointments, jobs, all this other stuff. And it was like amalgamation. Is that the word? Of things that all just piled on.
What word did you say?
Did I make up a word? Amalgamation? I think that's a word.
Amalgamation.
Amalgamation.
You wait. You just said a different word that time.
Did I? Amalgamation, right?
With an L. Amal.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
all right.
a word.
In post, guys, I will. I will.
I don't know. I mean, I love to read, but I haven't come across that one yet.
I'm pretty sure it's a word.
You may very well be right. Maybe I just haven't read the type of books that use words like amalgamation yet.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, but anyways, what was amalgamation?
I was trying to make something some deep point or whatever. I don't know what it was, but
you were saying that everything was coming together all at once, and
So basically, to make a long story short, I'm just using all this. I'm mentioning and saying all this stuff, guys, because I'm trying to make a connection of like where in my life I feel like personally like being honest and vulnerable really does help people, and I think once again. This is a whole another conversation for maybe next time, but I just think specifically with church itself, like we're afraid to actually get down and dirty with people because when I mean down and dirty, I obviously mean like
No, I wasn't.
I hate the way I'm describing it.
I wasn't thinking of it that way at all. So don't worry about it. I know what you mean. Like
we're afraid to actually
we're scared of judgment. We don't want to be judged by other people or looked at differently or I still I get worried about people judging me sometimes, but one thing that has been so important to me these past few years, especially, finding my identity as a mother and a wife, is I don't look for validation in other people anymore. I just care about validation in through Christ, and I find my identity in Christ. So you know what? If someone wants to,
what was that process like?
A long one, a long one. It's been a long time coming, but it just, just going back to, for example, I know you were at the beginning before we went on this another tangent. You had asked me about with the miscarriage.
15 minutes.
I can do a lot more.
Okay.
Honestly, right. Yeah. The Vitor is gonna be fine with Theo. He's putting him to sleep now. So with the miscarriage, I know you asked how I took that with God. How it felt, or like how. Well, I don't remember the way you phrased it, but how.
What I was trying to say, like not to cut you off, is that. Like, what do you actually do as a Christian when something terrible like that happens?
Yeah.
Like, here, ready?
I'll say.
I'm gonna. It's funny because there's like this thing where like it's popular in Christian podcasts where people be like, I'm gonna say something that gets me canceled, and then they'll be like, Jesus loves everyone, and everyone's like, I think this might be another thing in of itself. So if we have to bring it back in, we have to bring it back in. I think that it's not a sin to be mad at God when terrible things like a miscarriage, suicidal thoughts, all that stuff. We're not good at sitting with these feelings because obviously, put everything aside that like we obviously live in a great country and we have a lot of good stuff that's in our benefits, but it's like, dude, there's still times where not that everything is a mental health issue or a crisis, but there's also things it's like we just don't address. We don't address the actual, like, there's so many, like, when it comes to, like, even mental health or like, tragic things that happens in your life, it's like, it's not a sin to, like, to be rocked by these things. I feel like as Christians, you got to keep your, like, Christian image in a way. It's like, well, no, I don't. I'll talk about sin or struggles I have, and I'll keep it like very much like, kind of like a K-Love song where they like don't actually ever say like the dark time, the dark valley, the struggle. It's like, call it what it is, dude. Like I was so, I once again, I don't think it's I just think a lot of us are afraid to actually admit, like, no, I am pissed off at, I'm trying to say this in the right way, but like,
I know what you're saying.
I'm not, like, God is not afraid of your anger and your hurt. And a lot of times, like, for those of us that maybe don't have at times, like, that point in their relationship with God where you can just have an open dialogue with God. Like, that's what I've changed my perspective on. It's like, no matter where I'm at, like, I just want to keep an open dialogue with God. It's funny. I tell mom and dad, even when I like talk about spiritual wrestlings or whatever, and they'll like, well, Ben, don't give up all this stuff. After like, I'll be done ranting for like 30 minutes or whatever. I'm like, it's okay, Mom. I still have my 6 Christian tattoos to keep me from. It's not like I'm gonna go and apostatize when my whole arm is. But you get what I'm saying. I'm just trying to add that to.
No,
what
I
we
totally
were
understand what you're
earlier.
saying. I mean, I'll share my experience because I don't know, if it's a sin or not to be mad at God. I don't know. I don't really have an inclination one way or the other. I understand why people can be mad at God because bad things happen.
I just think people don't want to admit it.
Yeah. Now, I will say with the miscarriage, I was angry and I was upset. I was just more heartbroken, but I wasn't upset at God. And the reason is because I did not feel like God took my baby away. I felt like, and I feel like a lot of times people's anger may be misplaced as well. And that's my opinion because I understand what you're saying, but God's intentions were never for us to have miscarriages or to have suicidal thoughts or to feel this type of way. And so when I had my miscarriage, it was a rough, even still to this day, like I'll still cry. But the thing is too, like, and this is another hard thing to think about. Like if I didn't have my miscarriage, I wouldn't have Theo right now because I got pregnant with him a month later.
Oh yeah.
So I wouldn't have him. So, and that's a hard thing to think about too, because like I wouldn't want to not have Theo, but I wish there was a way I could have had them both. But with me, my mindset was always like, we live in a fallen world, and sadly, bad things do happen. And that's like a sucky way to put it because it's like, it doesn't really make you feel any better. But I don't believe that God took my child away. I don't believe that, I just think that because we live in an imperfect world, there's sickness and there's death and there's sadness, and unfortunately stuff like that is just going to happen. And I don't think that it was God punishing me. Maybe it was. I don't know.
That's not what I'm saying,
I know. But I'm just saying I don't know. Like, I don't have all the answers, obviously. So
I think maybe a better way of what I was trying to say earlier, which this is something you've heard from me before, but my faith grew in God when I would have the honest the open dialogue. Because I'd be like the stuff where I would literally sometimes you get frustrated with your sister or your brother or your parents. You're like, why is it this way or whatever?
Yeah.
I was afraid to have that conversation with God because I have to be respectful. I have to do all this, but I would have such resentment and stuff in my heart. And I'm like, God does want to hear. So like when I was at, this was more the Target days, like 2017, 2018. This is what I'm like, I'm unloading trucks at 4 a.m. at Target, like at this time of year, actually, 4 or 5 years. Yeah, this time of year, 4 or 5 years ago, like, and I'm just starting to learn what it actually means to be a Christian that has a relationship with the Holy Spirit. I think a lot of Christians that we do know, unfortunately, don't know what it's like currently, hopefully in the future, of what it's like having a relationship with the Holy Spirit. I think the more that we walk with God, the more that God wants to. I think one great thing that I'm gonna repeat myself again from another podcast I did with David, episode number 4, where his dad says, Ben, don't strive to be like me, strive to be with me, and then you'll be like me. So in being with God, you have to be like, the hardest thing in my life was having was vocalizing the doubts or the struggles or the anger I had with God, and then sitting with them. And when I mean sitting with them, it's not like, oh, Ben, you just sit with your, you're edging the line of whether you're being heretical or not. No, it's like, no. It's like there's a deep spiritual root, something that's going on there. And not is everything, like you don't want to hyper spiritualize everything and be like, well, is every struggle I go through like, the devil like doing his best work on me? It's like, no, but I think, if you're heavily emotionally wired people like me, like you, the way that like, I wish I could just go and compartmentalize things. Like, it's so funny. Like, some of my friends would be like, work was terrible, but I'm going to have a great day at the gym.
That's Vitor. I'm like, how do you do that?
Yeah. Or it's like the podcast was terrible. I'm going to have a good time at dinner night or whatever.
No,
or I'm going to have a good golf.
It took us 45 minutes to get the podcast started. Now the rest of the night's going to suck. That's the way we think.
Yeah. Well, you could tell my energy. It wasn't off in the beginning, but I was still like so.
You were frustrated.
At myself, yeah.
Yeah. But no, I mean, after I had my miscarriage, I wouldn't say I was really angry. I was, like I said, I was more heartbroken, but I definitely questioned. And my biggest questions were like, why would this happen to me when I want my child so much, but then someone that's going to abort their baby, gets pregnant?
Are we going there?
Well, we can if you want. It's completely up to you because it's your podcast. But
no, that's a good point.
That was my biggest issue. Like, how can my baby be taken away? And it's dangerous to think that way too, because then you do get resentment towards God, and it's better to talk about those things than to like just fester for forever. Yeah. So I agree with you how you said that it's good to vocalize it, because I was so much more like how could this happen to me? Why would you let this happen to me? But then someone that's going to abort their baby didn't have a miscarriage,
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird how all that.
That was hard for me to wrap my mind around as well. But
when I say these things, it's not like. It's not that I enjoy like pointing the finger at the church and being like, why couldn't you guys teach me this better? Or why couldn't these things be talked about more? I think they are. And now even through social media, even with all the bad connotations, I think there are people that are actually talking about things. All I'm saying is that, once again, that there's power just in being vulnerable. And even looking at my own life, once again, I know I keep bringing up like lust and porn, but it's like, what keeps me like grounded with those things, and sometimes I still have hard times where I fight against those things, or maybe it's not even something as like serious. A lot of times, like as Christians, like what are the main things we all struggle with? Like there's the sex thing, there's the drug thing, there's like I don't know, money or drinking. Like those are the main four, and then there's all the side things off that. It's like it's not even. Life shouldn't be about like your vices and just like wrestling with God. That's why I have this one song called "To Be Honest," actually, on the new album that I'm working on. It's like I have this line where I go, "I know there's more to me in you than this." Like my life with God shouldn't just be wrestling about like am I doing the right things? Am I then there's the whole thing where it's like, is my performance with God, like, am I being a good Christian? Am I doing the right things? Am I going to church or what all this stuff's like, dude, right now my church attendance actually is probably not the lowest it's ever been, but currently I'm at the point where I'm frustrated with some things, and I would like to see some improvement in myself and in certain organizations that I have like ties to. But at the same time, it's not that I'm just out here like doing a podcast, saying whatever, saying all these like things where it's like, oh, here comes the disgruntled Christian talking. It's like, no, I think a lot of people are thinking the same thing, and maybe are, if they are not scared to vocalize it, maybe they don't know how to. And I'm like, I want to be someone that can. Not even like, oh, I'm inspiring and changing people. I can't do that. God's the one that like does that. But I want, like, God wants us to live, like, in order, like, if you want to help other people, like, you got to fix yourself before you want to help people. I think, like, me and you want to help people.
Oh, for sure.
It's more like, yes, I want to help people, but I'm like, I would just like to be the one where I can just be there with people. Because I think of all the times where, I hear from my parents and whatever, it's like, well, at this point in my life, like, I just had to be this for this person.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like that's where, here we go, the humility that I have received when I finally understood what, like, the gospel is and all that stuff, it's like it humbled me, because I'm like, oh, not only do I need help, but, like, not only does everyone else in my life, like, need help and need to be ministered to or whatever, but it's like, you got to help yourself first.
Yeah. It's so important. Like, I think that this was a long time ago, but I heard a sermon once where, like, you have your internal cup, I guess we'll call it, and if your cup is empty,
I know where you're going with this.
then you don't have enough to put into other people.
Exactly.
So you got to make sure that your cup is full before
if
you
you're
start
pouring into someone, it's like, there's only so much. And you know what I was doing at that time in my life, where I was doing all these things for God. You were
like spreading yourself too thin, I think.
Yeah, I think there was definitely some of that. I think at the time too, I think I always had some ghosts in the closet when it came to be like, well, I really, I was really insecure about, whatever. I didn't go to college, or I don't have the job that I want, or I don't, I'm not being a worship pastor somewhere or whatever. All I wanted to do is I really just wanted to give people the experience that I had, an experience through God.
But
cool. So, hey, was there anything else we wanted to add?
So there was,
yes,
not about
please.
This, but there's one thing that I did want to talk about. I don't know if you remember. Did you watch the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight?
I was so mad. It's so rigged.
It was, for sure.
It's been rigged for, like, his last 7 fights.
Yeah, I mean, all I know is that when I saw Mike Tyson out there, I would not want to be on the receiving end of, like, he looked scary. Like, even though he's 58 years old, there's no doubt in my mind that it was rigged. I don't think he was trying very hard.
No, like, why are they hugging at the end?
I know. It's for the money, Ben. It's for the money.
I know, but it's... Yeah.
I stayed up, like, I literally have to wake up so much during the nights, and I woke up early this morning, but I was like, I'm staying up to watch this.
Dang.
And I was so frustrated because it kept buffering.
That was everyone.
I know, but I was like, are you kidding me?
Dude, I saw this comment where, like, dude, the biggest fight was, like, me versus Netflix.
Literally. It's so
That's
true.
so
I was
funny.
so annoyed because I'm like, I just want to go to bed and I just want to watch this. I really did want to see Mike Tyson knock him out, though. That would have been that would have been amazing.
Yeah, that would have been too. But that guy has so much money that he just, like, pays people.
Yeah.
And Mike Tyson, I'm not saying he's broke now, but, like, he lost a lot of the money that, like, he spent
did.
it all. Yeah, like, Mike Tyson had, like, a Bengal tiger as a pet.
I know that because I've seen The Hangover. That's a funny movie.
Oh, it's hilarious.
I love that movie. I actually was just watching that the other night. I was, like, in my feels, and I was like, I'm gonna watch The Hangover. And seeing Zach Galifianakis with his fanny pack, and
I was like, Zach Galifianakis.
He's so funny. That movie's hilarious.
All right, well, thanks for chopping it up, girl.
Anytime.
Until next time, all right?
That sounds good. Anytime you want me back here, I'll be here.
All right, and I will have the mics more.
Yes, hopefully it won't take 45 minutes to set up next time.
Yeah, it was bad. I was stressed out. So.
It's okay.
All right, guys. Peace.